Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of General Geekery. I'm Brian, and with me, as always, is JD.
Hello.
And we have another customizer on the show today because the month-long spotlight on customizers went over so well that everybody wants to talk to more customizers. And I thought, geez, you know what? One of the people we have not had on the show is one of the most prolific and well-known customizers in the business, and that is Coby from AVAC Lab. Thank you for joining us, man.
Thank you for having me. Hi, everyone.
So tell us a little bit about what you do for those that don't know.
Well, mainly right now, I have a store, AVAC Lab, and I am currently closed right now because I am making new inventory and moving my store from eCrater to my own site finally. And I've been closed since May, and I haven't done much work on the computer side, but the molds are keeping me pretty busy. I'm doing about, I don't know, somewhere between 400 and 500 at a time right now.
Holy crap.
It's just, yeah, it's sort of just spiraled out of control. It's like, oh, I want to do that. Oh, wait, I was supposed to do this. And it's just, I finally just decided to commit and do it all at once and get it out of the way finally. And I keep adding stuff every day. So yeah, it could go past 500 at some point.
Oh man, that's
yeah, well, the thing is, I'm doing these figure kits, and you have to start off with casting parts of the old figure, including like a solid torso,
right.
So you can get, you know, the Webgear to add to a new figure, you know, to upgrade your figure to its modern form.
Right.
And so you got to make a mold so that you can make a mold, if you will. There's a lot of in-between molds. Same with, you know, shrinking and enlarging.
Yeah.
So it takes a while to get to the final product because, you know, once you cast that solid, let's say you cast the torso, you got to hollow it out, Dremel it out, and then
right.
You got to cast that. And if you if you can kind of foresee that it might be popular, you got to make two of them so you can kind of keep up with demand. And one of the kits I'm working on right now is going on about 20 molds right now.
Wow.
Just one figure.
And this is the reason why I say, well, I'd like to mold and cast someday. No, I wouldn't, because I would never actually get there.
You got to be a process guy.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm so very not.
In college, I studied printmaking, and you had to do a lot of process stuff, and same with sculpture, and you'd have to do a lot of things to get to your final goal, and so things go through a lot of change from, you know, point A to point Z, and then you start adding on other things. And I think I've got about 20 figure kits coming out. So if one kit has like 20 molds to it, just they add up and take a lot of time.
Grow out exponentially.
But worth it.
Yeah,
totally
no, it sounds familiar. I mean, it sounds fantastic. JD has ordered stuff for me before. JD, what have you gotten from him?
Well, never gotten a kit of any kind, but I was a big fan of the Steel Brigade helmet with the night vision goggles on the top. There was the construction helmets. There was a sombrero that I used on a custom about 4 years ago.
Yeah, that came out of a head. That came out of it, like, I don't know, some figurine that has a head attached to it. It was a solid head and sombrero and
the bandito mask.
Exactly.
Basically the COVID mask that we're all wearing now.
Exactly, yes. And so I bored that out, threw the head away, bored the head away, and then made the hat out of it. And there wasn't a whole lot of room on the inside for it, but I mean, how many sombreros are out there? So, yeah, there aren't.
Yeah, yours is the only one.
So like, there's a lot of Dremel involved, and you know, just the whole like idea of having to make, like, let's see if you can figure out, maybe the parts are in production right now. This is the only part that hasn't made it yet because I just finished it, but I don't know if you can see this. Anybody can
Ooh,
guess,
Battle Core Eel.
Yes.
Eel,
Nice.
yeah. Eel
Nice.
version 2. So this
Nice.
this came from torso. I'll take it off here.
Did you
Stop
you
breaking.
hollowed out the vintage torso?
Yeah, and made a. This is kind of what I'm talking about. So
That's
this
fantastic.
That's awesome.
And so I don't like to bore out the original figures because they're more oil based. So
yeah.
it just burrs up and just melts on you.
Gotcha.
So if you just suck it up and make a really small mold, don't use a whole lot of silicone, just enough to cast it once or twice, get the out of it, and cut the mold up and recycle it. And you end up with this, and then you cast this, and so I'm gonna have to do them twice because I think that a lot of people be wanting this. So
so I got you. So you cast the original torso, and then you Dremel out the armor off the cast.
Exactly. The parts that make it iconic, and you have to redo the back, because the peg will sit lower. Because I try to kind of match it up to Marauder figures.
Yeah.
And I have to redo the hole in the back, and then I took the circular pattern out of the crotch piece and grinded that down and
nice.
added it to cover up the old hole.
Nice. My Eco Warriors Outback.
I just want to get like a lot of figures. What's that?
That's one of Coby's Outback
I'm
head
sorry.
sculpts. I just added the
there
the helmet to it. But yeah, that's one of your head casts. So
nice.
Yeah, and I just placed my
Is that Outback.
So
yeah, it's the Eco Warriors Battle Core Outback. So yeah,
it's great figure, man.
Yeah, I placed an order for Toxo Viper and Secto Viper kits,
and it's going out tomorrow.
Sweet. I'm looking forward to getting those because I'm going to do female versions of both of those. So
now that's one of the figures I'd kind of like to revisit because I'm very fond of like vehicle drivers. I mean, I'm named after one. So the Secto Viper, I'd like to actually make it modular because it is like one of the hardest things I have to cast because the helmet has to fit.
Right.
And so you got to cast the inside of the helmet, has to snap together and work together. I'd like to be able to make the hose patterns things to come off and to be removable. I'd like to make it like a whole, like upgrade it, but still have the vintage feel to it.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's going to take a lot of work.
Yeah, it sure sounds like.
And the more modular make things, the easier it is to use the long poles.
Yeah, we got a sound problem.
So
sorry about that. We're having a little technical issue, but that's nothing new for us.
That's all right.
It wouldn't be our show if we didn't have some sort of tech issue.
Yeah, every Zoom interview I've done, there's been technical issues.
Yeah,
big deal. It happens.
Yeah, no worries. So, yeah, I can see how the modularness of it would make it easier to cast up. Then,
yeah, I mean it's more molds. It's more molds, but you can break them up, and I mean the more angles and points you have to deal with. I mean, you're dealing with silicone, and it can be pretty durable, but I mean, it can pick up imperfection. I mean, it can pick up a tampo on a Cobra chest. It's that sensitive.
Really?
So any if any sharp point comes out of the mold a few times, it can just scar it. And then you got that in the cast, and it's either deal with it post casting or make a new mold.
Yeah. Geez. How long have you been making molds?
Well, I started casting and mold making in college. I started doing bronze and cast iron.
Okay.
And then post college, I worked at a foundry for a few years.
Nice.
And then I always wanted to incorporate toys into my sculpture somehow.
Okay.
And I ended up just like just skipping right to doing, toys, I guess, and building vehicles and stuff because I had a surplus of them. And I mainly just, painted them and then didn't add much to them. I just wanted to break up, like I had a vehicle army building problem, if you will. So I had like large sections of large walls of just black his tanks, and I kind of wanted to break it up. And like in the early 2000s, I'd buy collections, and I'd end up with all these his tanks, and so I'd paint them. And I was working also in a cabinet shop with a guy that did like finishing, so he knew how to paint really like professionally. Like
Nice.
like he worked in an auto body shop, so he taught me everything he knew. And so I would paint the vehicles, and then around 2007, a lot of these newer vehicles would come out that were, upgrades of vintage vehicles, and they're easier to find and cheap. So you could just like buy a new his tank and then be able to add stuff to it because all the other parts were working, like the canopy, and you could really put together a new looking, factory made custom vehicle because you're already starting with a new his tank, So I got mainly back into just casting in general by trying to replicate those parts to make vehicle building easier and cheaper. I'd cast the canopy and all this stuff, and I just eventually started just casting figure parts for people and started selling those. And I was in a car accident, and I quit my carpentry job and just did the casting full time somewhere around, I think, 2009. I didn't get that E-Crater store till 2013, I think. But so I've been doing it for, close to 10 years.
Nice.
Yeah. The first thing I ever saw from you was a bright yellow his tank with a bulldozer scoop on the front of it.
I remember.
I love that. I was immediately enamored with it. There we go. That was it.
That is amazing. I remember seeing that years and years ago. That is fantastic.
I got a bunch of them here for you if you want me to go through some of them.
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, well, after doing that his tank, I did that dozer, his dozer, if you will, and that won a contest. And from that, a lot of people wanted them, so I started making different versions of them. People would want custom colored ones, and so I made a IG one.
Nice.
And I still have a few of these left, so I don't do vehicle builds that much anymore because it's just so time consuming.
Yeah, neither JD and I mean, we both like customizing vehicles, but we never finished them.
Yeah, I have a bunch of unfinished ones. It's depressing.
So I can't even finish them if they're just straight repaints. If I actually have to do involved work on it, that definitely almost nullifies any chance that I'm actually going to finish it. So,
well, I mean, a lot of the vehicle work you have to do outside. I mean, depending on what environment you live in. Unless you have an indoor paint area, you have to duck in and out in the winter. At least I did, and smelt the house. Really.
Brian's sitting in his indoor paint area.
Yeah, well, I don't do spray painting here. That is.
Yeah.
Do that out in the garage, but
yeah, your wife might kill you if you did that. But
exactly. But even if you don't spray outside, it off gases inside. So but you don't have any choice. So I'd like spray it and then run downstairs, and then it would eventually wave upstairs, and I would hear it then. But here's a dump truck.
Man,
no, I love that.
It operates with magnets. And this is
nice.
Treads from the Mobat, a construction vehicle, and then a his tank chopped in half. That's from the stash of junky his tanks that I was able to get a large.
I like that you salvage the wrecked ones.
Oh yeah, I have a wrecked one, but this is like from a snake teller.
Oh, wow.
This is
Oh, is that one
a
of those?
rock.
It's the mole pod, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I had a bunch of these treads left over, so and then a giant bag of whale parts, so I just kind of put them
Nice.
all together.
Nice.
Here's a
Um,
Decepticon, Constructicon version of the dump
Very
dump.
cool.
Oh yeah, that is okay. Now I can't imagine not only making a big involved custom like that, but replicating and doing more than one of them. Oh God, no.
That's the printmaker in me, man. Because I would make a prototype. It's like I don't want to just make one of these. If I'm going to go to the time, I'm going to go ahead and just make many of them all at the same time, because you don't forget what you're doing. You know, I mean,
Right.
once you
Yeah.
get prototype made, it's like, okay, I'm going to make 5 of these.
Yeah, I'm definitely not the process guy and the print guy. No. I'd like to be, but no.
The closest I get to that's making my own cards. All the figures on the walls behind me are my custom.
Yeah, your cards are awesome.
Yeah, about the only process I can really. One of my favorite things has become taking random parts from different toy lines and integrating them, making them work together, dremeling, whatever, making it all work together to make a Frankenstein thing. Usually I try to get them to fit Joe parts. In fact, the challenge customs I'm working on for Brian right now, there's a whole lot of that going on. And I love doing that stuff. But for me, that doesn't feel like a process because it's still a unique thing that I'm making when it comes to replicating a certain, because I've only ever done a few commissions in my life, and 2 of those commissions were basically somebody sending me a message that had seen some of the customs I'd posted, and then they're like, "Whoa, can you make one of those for me?" "Oh, sure, I will." And when it comes right down to it, the finished piece in both cases were the same idea, but not the exact same figure, because it's like it wasn't the lack of parts availability or anything. It was just a matter of I just couldn't make myself copy what I'd already done just to send
it, probably, you know?
Yeah, well, in one of the cases, I definitely did, and I was so tempted to keep the second version and send them. I'm like, damn it, no, I won't do that. But in the case of the other one, honestly, it was an improvement, but not one that I actually preferred. It was just in that first case. Well, because what it was Greedo in way back when I took some Power of the Force 2 parts and I just made Greedo in the lime green jumpsuit that he had in the vintage Star Wars line. Greedo's my favorite Star Wars bad guy, and I really prefer the neon green version from the 70s. So I ended up making a modern construction version I deliberately used extra parts that I had no other use for, and I put them together and I replicated the look. And then I'm like, "Oh, I'm really happy with this." Like, yeah, like Darth Vader boots, because one of the other trademarks of that Greedo figure is that he's got the knee-high space boots. And so I used Darth Vader boots and all these other random parts. And I'm like, all right, I just used parts that I had no other use for, and I made this Greedo. And then somebody sent me a message. They're like, "Oh, can you make one for me?" I'm like, all right, fine. I'm like, fine. I've got the parts, and I did, and I ended up using a slightly different recipe, like Vader boots that were in a better, more neutral pose. And I'm like, should I keep it? No, I'm not going to. So I did send the second version to the other guy, but it was reluctantly. Because I replicated the paint just fine, but yeah, it was the parts recipe. I'm like, man, I really just can't bring myself to copy what I've already done.
And I think
that piece separation anxiety really hurts sometimes. You know,
Yeah,
you put a lot of care into something, and you just got to let it go. I know that feeling quite well.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the reasons I don't do a lot of commissions. I mean, every time I post a figure, somebody asks to buy it, and I'm like, no, sorry, this one's not for sale. But I think that the parts replication is like the main reason that I want to get into customizing or into casting, is because it's like, okay, I've got this one part, like right here, sitting right here, I've got the original helmet for guillotine. And it's like, I don't want to use that on a custom.
I just did it. In
Because,
its full form, I just did it, and it was massive and a lot of work.
yeah.
Because it has to be cast with the tubes straight.
Right.
So you pour it halfway, and then you take toothpicks and poke into the walls of the mold to straighten them out, and keep pouring in different levels so that it straightens out, because it's got a natural memory to it that wants to fold up, which would be a problem pouring. So I haven't even taken it out of the mold yet. I've got seriously a couple hundred uncut out molds. I'm just,
oh my God,
throwing them in a bucket right now, because I'm just like trying to get them produced, and I'm not worried about whether they work or not. I'm hoping they do, but
right.
Last year for my custom challenge that I did with Brian, I was doing vintage style Joes, and I made a guillotine, like a vintage style guillotine for him. And the first thing I did was look for the helmets. Nobody who was casting them had any available. And
I've had a modification of it in my store forever. It just never had the tubes on it because of the work it took to make
the
mold for it. And I finally sucked it up and did it.
Well, yeah, because I think you were maybe you were closed, but yeah, nobody else had it available. And then I went and I did a really dumb thing, and I went and I looked on eBay. Oh, what about guillotine? Oh my God! Between the new sculpt version from that 6-pack with the Plague versus the Steel Brigade, those are going for sick amounts of money. And then for some reason, all of the club figures from the figure subscription service, no matter how subpar and crap they were when the club made them, they go for obscene amounts of money on eBay right now. And I'm like, all right, so I'm going to ditch the original design of Guillotine's helmet, and I'm just going to come up with something completely different and go off in a whole other direction, because if I had bought one of the ready-made figures, whether it was the new sculpt or the club version, that probably would have cost me as much as the rest of the super Frankenstein together custom had.
Yeah,
so
that's the thing.
He's got a cool, unique helmet, and I'm glad that you're casting it like that for other people so that they can use it without having to go crazy with it.
Speaking of guillotine and earlier Steel Brigade, I am happy to announce that the entire Plague team will be released.
Ooh.
All the things that make each figure iconic.
Yeah.
I have like 2 or 3 of those those 6-packs, because I went kind of nuts back in that era, and I was finally able to dig a whole set out, and that's where the helmet came from. And
oh, cool.
So I'm redoing all my Steel Brigade helmets, the Webgear from the Steel Brigade figure, which is unique, and I don't think it's ever been used again, which is really cool. And all the rest of the parts there's a ton of parts in that 6-pack, but
yeah, sure.
Everything that makes the figures, and then the additions too, like Munitia and everyone else. Everyone's getting thrown in.
Nice. Yeah,
so,
I
sweet.
Custom for made
it's
Cobra.
like a 13 figure ensemble that's going on. So that's one of the kits I'm doing, which is a mega kit.
Sweet.
The guns, all of it.
Man, yeah, that is fantastic. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to getting that's one of the things that I really like doing, is updating the old specialty Vipers. So these figure kits are just like the best way to do it. And I'm really looking forward.
I think Hasbro just wants to completely forget that they did big vehicles, because within those big vehicles were the best figures.
Yeah.
I freaking like Vapor,
Yeah.
Track Viper.
Yes.
I mean, just one figure after another, and they're just like completely ignored.
Yeah.
Like, I know they never had any big comic book presence or any cartoon presence, but I mean, how many Snake Eyes do we need? How about a Track Viper? Is that asking too much? I mean, come on.
I'm actually really shocked that within those 8 different figure subscription services, that the club didn't do more of the more obscure. Like, they did Worms, and
they touched
did
on them.
They did, yeah. Well, I mean,
I think
a lot of them take a lot of tooling. A lot of them would take a lot of tooling, because they're just
I mean, they Collectors Clubized their own version of Worms. It wasn't good. I'm not saying any of these were decent, but they at least they did the update. But I'm really surprised that, like, the Track Viper and the Wild Boars,
I think
Vapor.
Decimator would have been an easy one for him to do. I think Arrow Viper would have been an easy one for him to do.
Yeah. I mean, they really, but then I guess I really shouldn't be surprised, because there's a bunch of Joes from that era that got completely overlooked too. Lightfoot never got updated. There were 2 versions of him in the vintage. They had multiple opportunities. No Lightfoot, no Stretcher, no Backblast. Of all things, Backblast. I thought for sure he was a given, but
especially with that big retaliation roadblock buck.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that they had his trademark from the years before, when they did that crappy winter operation set. I mean, it was all there, and I'm like, really? You skip Backblast. Of all the other, you give us Recoil, but not Backblast.
Yeah.
And then but there were, like, the Secto Viper, between them and Hasbro, there was no attempt to make anything like it. So it is kind of weird that like, they never tried to update Target either.
Yeah.
You're naming off all these things that I'm working on.
Well, I'm glad, because
Lightfoot. Let's see, Lightfoot. Who'd you just name again? Target.
Yeah.
That's a pile of parts. Oh my god.
Yeah, no kidding. I just carded mine. I made a custom last year that I was really happy with, and I just finally got it on the card today. So
I had to boil the backpack apart, because it would not separate. And
I think
I was thinking the whole time it was going to get warped in the boiling water, or separating it would snap. And I was able to get it apart. So
nice. I was going to say, I was going to ask if you had to go through multiple backpacks to get all the parts off of it.
I think.
No, actually, I had a few targets laying around, and I was able to take one boil apart first attempt. So.
Nice. Yeah, because I took one of the backpacks and I kit bashed it to one of the one of these backpacks.
Oh yeah.
And
no, that's sweet. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't remember how I got mine apart. I think I dremeled it. I think I.
Yeah, well, there are actually gears inside the.
I found that out.
The wings are gears.
Yeah, I figured that out once I got it apart. I'm like, no wonder. But
so we'll see how that flies. But I wanted to show you one of my favorite. Like, when I moved on from construction vehicle phase, I guess. This was a hauler trailer, and this is
it's gorgeous.
Bottom part of a Toys R Us missile hauler.
Oh, sweet!
Lifts up.
Oh wow!
Shit.
Has like interior weapon storage, and it sort of kind of acts like an asp.
Yeah. Holy crap! That's
amazing.
I'm a giant nerd for his tanks.
Yeah, me too.
JD's living this.
Yeah, I own one of just about every major variation and some minor variations that they've done over the years with the his tanks. Like the different models and the different, even that crappy one that springs up with the head and the cockpit from the
I love that one.
I do too.
Cobra. I have one of those because I'm like, well, it's a his tank and I need it, and it's terrible. But
I probably was able to do the hits too.
Nice.
God, that's amazing. God, that's absolutely amazing. I did that with my my Shockwave his tank from the crossover convention set. You know, because the Pursuit of Cobra his tank had those badass treads with the giant wheels, and they were separate pieces. But then when they went back and they retooled that mold for G.I. Joe Retaliation, they got rid of the working treads, and they became one solid sculpt again. And my Shockwave his tank was way too cool to have the unmoving treads, so I took an extra Rise of Cobra or Pursuit of Cobra his, and I took the treads off, and I put them on the bottom of Shockwave because I'm like, there's no way he can have unmoving treads. This thing is so badass.
Yeah, that's
He's
a good
got to
idea.
have the proper treads.
Well,
so,
they kind of, I think Hasbro got taken to the cleaners with those. I mean, because they had the brown version and then the black version and then the red version.
Right.
And I literally have a wall of the red version. I went because they went on clearance, I think for about $10-12. And I bought about 20 or 30 of them.
Nice. Yeah, I was just thinking, I wish I bought a bunch of, at least a couple of them, because I have one, and I tried to custom paint it. It was before I really knew what I was doing, and it's not very good. Now I'm like,
yeah,
I wish
I have the brown one and the black one. I think I had a red one, but last time I looked through my stuff,
You guys want to see what I did with mine? Well, one of them.
Absolutely.
The Alley Viper version.
Nice.
Oh my God! Yeah. Wait, what is that on the?
It's got mechanical arms.
Oh shit!
Sweet.
It's kind of like a mix of a mech, and of course, I had to have the plow in the back.
I was gonna say, Neon Genesis Evangelion called. They want their his tank back. Dude, that beautiful. Is bad. Oh, you can put a control. Holy shit, that's badass. Oh my God, yeah. Actually, you know what? You're lucky that. Yeah, you're lucky the Dreadnoks haven't stolen that to use it. I could see Thrasher creaming himself over that. So
there's plenty of spots to source some grape soda on that tank.
Exactly. Yeah, that's pretty badass. Yeah, I love his tank. So I love seeing customs of them. Unfortunately, the Shockwave Frankenstein with the treads, kind of the only one I ever finished. I mean, I did buy a custom Python Patrol version somebody made off them because it was somebody that I don't know if he's almost specialized in Python Patrol stuff, as he made, this was years ago. This was at least 10 years ago. He was always posting pictures of various vehicles that he'd Pythonized. Well, at one point he was selling some
flag.
of them.
I think he did the flag at one point.
Yeah, you know what? I think it was the same guy. Yeah, it probably was.
I was looking at pictures of that the other day.
Yeah, I mean, he did a lot of badass stuff, but at one point he was selling some of his stuff because he was happier with the newer stuff. He was selling off the older stuff, and he was selling the Python Hiss and the Python Trouble Bubble as a set. So I bought them. I have no particular give a shit for the Trouble Bubble, but I'm like, oh, well, he's throwing it in with the Hiss. Sure, I'll do that. So, yeah, because I'm really surprised. Hasbro and the club, they never did a Python Hiss. So,
yeah, that kind of is surprising when you stop and think about it for a minute.
I mean, it seems kind of obvious that the club did a Python Stinger, which I have.
Did.
But yeah, they didn't do a Python Hiss. It's really weird.
Which is funny because when I went to that convention, I bought a few of them, and you can just keep going back, and no one wanted them. I picked up like 7 or 8 of them.
That is weird. Yeah,
And
because
now they're
my
like
buddy,
$1,000 a piece.
yeah, basically, yeah, because that was what, 2011? That was the 2011. Yeah, I think it was 2012, because my buddy Dave Lee went to that, and he was able to get me the whole Python Patrol. He gave me his bag set of the convention set, and he got me the Stinger along with it.
It was not hard to get when you're there.
But yeah,
Just
because
really
I have a serious weakness for Python Patrol. Not the newer stuff, like the black and gold and red stuff that Toys R Us did. Nope. I like the I like the earth tone, slightly vomitous colors of the original.
Oh,
Python
me too, man.
line.
Me too.
So
I
I love that the vehicles had the cool black and yellow with the red netting pattern on it. Really, I like that. But when Toys R Us ordered their set and Hasbro decided to translate that onto the figures, I'm just like, no, now it doesn't work anymore. Plus they changed the eyesore yellow to gold, and I'm just like, no, stop trying to dignify it. No, make them ugly like all the originals, and I would have bought the shit out of them. But no, I mean, who doesn't want a diarrhea green Heat Viper? I mean, come on now. I do. I totally do.
I love all those 90s colors, because I wasn't from about 90, 91 on. I wasn't really collecting anymore.
Yeah.
And so I like to relive that, because I didn't get to experience it when it first came out, because I had moved on to girls skateboarding and didn't look back until 2000.
Yeah, I never outgrew G.I. Joe. I just bought them all along. So when I was in high school, yes, I was still buying neon colored G.I. Joes, and I didn't give a shit.
I was buying comics.
Yeah, that's what I was spending my money on, was comic books. So, but yeah, those are the kind of I collect just a little bit of the vintage stuff, and those are the ones I'm going back and getting right now, or either the vehicle drivers or the neon. Because I collect the specialty Vipers. That's my favorite thing. So I'm looking for a Sludge Viper and a Mega Viper
and another one.
Viper. So
another one gets brought up.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I worked on Sludge Viper's backpack today.
Nice.
So yes, Sludge Viper is coming out. I'm working with this guy. His name's Emra, and he lives in Turkey, and he's doing a lot of 3D work, and he's doing like 3D prints of figures that haven't been released, and they're Webgear. So he sent me Sludge Viper's Webgear. I didn't have to bring that one out.
So you got the padded vest with the chest box as a separate.
Yes.
Nice.
So I got that, and he cast them flat, so I'm able to make the molds flat. I don't have to make a bulky, thick, coat mold. It's a whole different type of casting. It's a lot easier. Might be a little flashier, but it's a lot easier to cast and work with. And it cleans up.
If it cuts down on the work you have to do, I say go for it.
It does. And so all it leaves me to do is the head, the pistol and the backpack. And so that's another one that's been leaked. I guess it's a Sludge Viper, Lightfoot, Plague, Eel version 2.
Yeah, Eel version 2 looks pretty good. So
I'm trying to fill in the holes, and I'm trying to make sure that Marauder at least carries the base figure there. So before I release it, I've gotten really into enlarging things, and it's
I noticed you took the club's Outback head sculpt and you fit it to the 6-inch figures.
It's so limited on what's out there, though. I mean, I could enlarge all day long, but I mean, if the body doesn't exist out there to slap it on, unless it's like, from a different line that I'm not, schooled on, you might be just making it for nothing, even though enlarging is so much easier than shrinking.
Is it?
Oh yeah, it usually just takes 2 molds. All you got to do is pour the enlarging resin in any mold you have, toss it in water, and watch it grow like a little dollar store lizard.
I'd say like a sea monkey.
Exactly. But shrinking, you gotta be like on call like a doctor, because if you leave it down there and leave the dehumidifier running, it shrinks it twice as fast, and you come down there in the morning and it could either be a BB and you're done, or it's ready to go and you got to drop everything you're doing, otherwise it's going to shrink by the end of the day, to 1/24 scale or something.
Right, that's horrible.
So you got to jump right on it, and then since it's a flexible gel type stuff, it's not really stable. So if you're able to get a good one to pour, it might be missing parts of the ear or parts of the head or whatever. You go with it, and so you get it to the scale you want, and then you cast it. Well, you're not always going to get it to the scale you want. Let's say you do get to the scale you want, and you cast it. You still have to go back in and patch all the bad parts that didn't come out. The ear, all that has to be repaired, and then you make your final mold, hopefully. But there's a lot of in between stages, because you're not always going to, like, if you start off with a 1/6 figure, it's going to take like 4 or 5 molds to get, because it's half water and half resin, so all the evaporation, it just depends on how much water is in there. And so once you don't see any more movement in it within like 2 weeks, you cast it where it is, it's not going to go anywhere else. It's like there's no more for the molecules to go. All the water's gone. Gotcha. So you cast it to that stage, and then the closer you get, the harder it is, because if you're like McFarland scale or something, it doesn't take that long to just overnight, and then you're done. You got to start all over because it's too small.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. Because there is a lot of cool stuff in larger scales that would be awesome in smaller scales.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I've heard, is that it's just like a pain in the ass to get to shrink stuff.
It wouldn't be such a pain in the ass if that's all I concentrated on. But I sell accessories, heads, figure kits, vehicle parts, flex stuff, custom colors. It just, after a while, you just focus on a few, like maybe celebrities or action figure stars that that sell, or that you like personally, or that have gotten requested a bunch, like Wick, John Wick or something.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes it only takes 1 or 2 molds, but most of the time it takes a lot of molds and a lot of sculpting to get to where it's sellable. But you have to do a little.
I cannot imagine. I really cannot imagine.
It's when you've got like 400 or 500, you try not to just like get bogged down and go, oh my God, I'm spending so much time on this one mold and I've got all these to work on. But it's funner that way for me, to work on like tons of things at once, because I think I get somewhat lost if I just got nothing to, like, too little to do.
Okay.
That perhaps the the anxiety factor wears off, and the more anxiety I got, the more I thrive on it, maybe.
All right.
I guess under pressure.
Yeah.
All self-imposed.
Yeah.
Man, I'm passionate about it, and I want to see figures get released that will never see the light of day, and just to see them come together is, it's just fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's what I love about these figure kits, is because it's like I'm going to be able to take parts from the original and make a female version for my collection that nobody else has ever made.
Well, yeah, and it's like there's certain parts on a figure that are just so iconic that you just can't leave them off, and they just don't work.
Right.
And if you take the pieces from the actual source material, it's going to be unmistakable. It's going to be, oh, that's Track Viper. Look at that vertical pattern going down the front of his chest.
Right.
You know, you might not get that from a factory figure because they're going to try to find a piece of web gear that'll just kind of work, you know,
Yeah.
and just leave off all the little tiny things that only like detail nerds or rivet counters are going to pick up, you know.
Exactly.
That's why I understand the limitations that the G.I. Joe Collectors Club was always working within. But that doesn't change the fact that some of their slapdash stuff just wound up being embarrassing. Their entire
slapdash slapdash stuff paid for like figures like Big Boa, you know. So like,
well, no, see, that stuff was awesome. And then you go over and you look at their Battle Force 2000 convention set. What the?
Yeah, but where they went wrong made me money.
That is true. See, you can't be mad about it. You're right. You can't be.
But I am a collector too. I don't want to see shitty figures, but at the same time, you know, it's like, well, I can.
As a businessman, yeah, you do want them to make crap figures. Because
I hadn't thought of it like that, boy. That's a good point. It's like every time Hasbro fucks something up, Coby's here to say, hey man, I can fix it for you for a price.
And even if I don't pick it up, there's going to be some fella out there that goes, oh well, I'm sure AVAC's going to fix this. I'm like, oh man, I don't say anything about it, but then it goes on my list. Like the other day, somebody brought up on the forums, like, man, I hope AVAC makes that Webgear for the new HISS driver. I'm like, guess who ends up in a boiling pot? The HISS driver. And the thing is, a lot of things I've had to do is alter Webgear to get it to cast easier.
Yeah.
Because man, sometimes people don't understand, like, you know, I don't get this a lot, but people can ask, you know, why does it take so long? Well, first I got like 40 orders before yours, but I also have to recast this damn coat for the 5th time because it's not working, and I'm a perfectionist and I don't want to send anything out that, oh, everything came out, but it's the wrong color. Great. So then I do it again. Oh, right color, but the plug didn't come out or whatever. And like, I'm not sending this out. So, you know, I've got a metric ton of scrap parts. I mean, cast parts.
You've got all kinds of scrap parts that you don't want to actually throw out, but you can't actually sell.
Oh, I've got
I can think of some places to donate them to.
They're gonna be coming out because I've been closed since May, and I'm getting pretty slim on the bank account, but got to suffer for your art, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So one of the things I've been doing is I've been having to modify Webgear because it's easier in mold making when you're approaching Webgear is to be able to cast it flat.
Okay.
Rather than, because, you know, a lot of Webgear only has a snap on one side and it's closed off on the other. It's a hell of a lot easier, and the mold lasts a lot longer if both sides have clasps, like a lot of Marauders vests.
Right.
Brilliant. That's how they should be done.
Yes.
So I'm like chopping up Webgear. Well, if they're rare, I will cast them first. Like the Big Boa Webgear, that was a nightmare because I mean,
I can imagine
a bunch of X's, and you have to cut it out of the mold. And, you know, one wrong move, you're slicing the original up, and it's, you know, you're slicing a spike off, you're slicing the thin strap. So yeah, that sucked a lot. And I ended up flattening it and making it flat and have it connect to the belt.
Okay.
Rather than it being one piece, again, with the modular idea. And that's kind of how I'm like approaching a lot of the Webgear I'm doing now is I'll just go in and, you know, if it's just like a rock vest or something that's really, you know, utilitarian vest, but, you know, highly sought after. I'll if it doesn't already have 2 snaps on each side, I'll add to it from like giant box of Webgear scraps I have, and that takes forever. But in the long run, it saves the mold, and you know, once you make the original and you pull it out, you have it forever.
Yeah, and I think it makes it a lot easier to use as for customs too. I mean, if if you're using a piece that only has a snap on one side and you're trying to get it on a figure, it's like God, you know, I've always got to flip a coin on when I'm going to put the Webgear on. Am I going to put it on before I start painting?
Exactly.
Or am I going to put it on after I start painting and then like potentially get paint rubs off? And it's like,
Yep.
especially if I'm trying to make stuff that's removable, and it's like, so
Yeah, it's nice to have it removable. It's nice to, you know, but sometimes with not all of them, but a few of them, especially like the full body harnesses, I've just added straps onto them where I've cut them. I haven't actually added like the female into it. I haven't added a male and female
Right.
part to it. I've just added just a strap. So you just glue it in rather than snapping in, because a lot of times if you add that stuff on the inside, it'll interfere, especially if it's in the chest area. You won't, you know, it's going to enter that. It's not going to flatten down like a real piece of cloth as if it were like a real piece of web gear. Just like hair is not going to flatten down on a hard head, right?
Right.
So you just either you just got to use it in spots where you get away with it. Generally around the underneath the arm.
That's where all my stuff comes together, is underneath the arms.
That's the ideal place.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I make like custom like body armor. So the plate carriers I take the chest pieces off the old BBI figures and put them on the Marauder.
Yeah.
And yeah, most of the
I
time,
I have a ton of BBI and 21st century torsos.
Nice.
And I had cast them, like a lot of them, just so I wouldn't have to bore into that really disgusting like plastic they use. I mean, it's worse than Hasbro's when it's burning up and burning. So it's just easier to cast out of resin because it just burns right away. But they're so small, you can't get a figure in them. You go to all that trouble, and it's just, you still can't fit a figure in. You're going to have to add room up here, room around the waist to make it wider. It just ends up being more work than it's.
Oh yeah, no, I ended up using a BBI torso for my topside custom, and yeah, it looks nice in the pictures, but it was a disaster. I had to patch holes from dremeling with sculpting material, and luckily the primer smooths everything out, and then when you paint it, it doesn't look too bad, but holy crap. Yeah.
I think that's why I like working on vehicles more, just because I don't know, it's such a bigger canvas. When I first went to school, I started off as a painting major, and then I started thinking, if I stick with this, I'm gonna have to try to sell paintings for $1,000 or something. And I see this casting medium. Printmaking medium, and I'm just like, I can sell hundreds of these for $25 a pop, and it just makes more sense economically. And when I was doing the paintings, they were always really huge, and it was just more comfortable area to work on. And I think I have that same kind of like claustrophobia feel when I work on a figure, just because it's just so tiny. And with a vehicle, you just got so much more room to work, and I can use all my carpentry tools, and it's just a lot more enjoyable than doing a figure custom, which is ironic because I primarily sell figure parts. So.
Yeah, that is kind of ironic when you stop and think about it. Now,
don't get high on your own supply, man. That's the rules.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. I worked with the paramedic that a long time ago that he ran on a guy that was like, he had a list of rules. He was a drug dealer, and that was the list on the list of rules is that don't get high on your own product. But
I learned that from New Jack City.
Okay. Now, didn't you make a like multiple level Terradome at one point in time too?
Yeah, actually. Hold on, I think I have a little. Joe Con came to Kansas City where I live, and so it made it more feasible to do something like this. But I do have a photo of it. I used all the construction vehicles
Yes.
and sort of made like the rise of Cobra Terradome. And one of the funny things about this is after the dioramas were all set up and everything at the show, there was a Q&A session with Hasbro. I think it was John Warden or something. John Warden maybe walked in. It's like, calm down, everybody. Calm down, everybody. Despite what you saw out on the show floor, we're not doing a Terradome, okay? Don't get your hopes up. So it basically rickrolled everybody into thinking that they thought it was a Hasbro presentation.
Oh, wow.
So basically what I did was I had all these vehicles on hand because I was already making them for people. And
right.
So I added a few more additions to the lineup. And I layered plywood to make mountains and then a large construction site. And I used when I was buying those collections, I kind of ended up with like 10 Terradomes. Okay. So I had some parts left over to make. See if I can see this. It's like 8 foot. No, let's see. I think it was 12 foot by 4, 5, 12 foot by 5. Okay.
Holy God.
Yeah, that's the one I remember.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that is a thing of beauty right there.
Where is it now?
Well,
I'm just curious.
I actually butchered a lot of the plywood for work tables, and I still have all the Terradome actual parts, you know, like the actual Hasbro toy parts and stuff, but they're all boxed up. But I butchered the rest of it for work area.
I actually bought a second base for a Terradome to try something like that, but I just never got around to getting more, you know, the rest of like the walls to do anything with it. And just
well, and I feel like now really Terradome, if you have one and you look at it wrong, that brittle plastic is just gonna fly apart.
Well, that was the beauty of it. Since I had a lot of scrap Terradomes, I basically, you know, I primed everything. I took the worst parts I could find, and since it's a construction site, I didn't have to use a lot of the, you know, I didn't have any of the what is it, the ramparts. I didn't have to have those on there. I kind of had one on the ground as it was about ready to get put up, but it was cracked. But I had gravel kind of over it, so you couldn't tell. And so I just took everything, and so I made everything one consistent color to make it new. I just matched I primed everything like I always do, and then just got blue and a gray, and was able to make it all new again just by painting like the worst sun damaged Terradomes I had on hand, and it just made it brand new just because I gave it a coat of paint.
It's amazing what a coat of paint will do.
Yeah, and I used cat gravel for the construction area, and so I was able to hide a bunch of the flaws.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing that and just was like blown away by it. I'm like,
thanks, man. I went nuts.
I'm like, why did nobody ever think of that before? I mean, that is just brilliant. I absolutely love that diorama.
Well, I did construction for like, you know, like my day job was construction, and I guess art was my night job. But so that was kind of my environment in my life, being on a construction site the whole time. And, you know, why not the Terradome? I've always like Toll Booth was my favorite figure as a kid. So like the whole idea of building and construction, the building and construction of war, not necessarily the war part, always fascinated me. I guess CBs, is that the engineering part of the war, of any war effort? Building the battlefield before. It's just kind of fascinating.
I think that's what I like about the construction, his tanks, is because when you stop and think about it, they're so practical.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
like,
I mean,
of course they need a his tank with a bulldozer, you know,
Well,
scoop.
yeah, because if they're
what kid
clearing the
doesn't like?
battlefield and they're still fighting, well, yeah, you got to get the wreckage out of the way.
Yeah, and as far as being marketed to kids, I mean, what kid doesn't love dump trucks and bulldozers and
Well,
stuff?
Hasbro
A
understood
no
that because
brainer.
they had the Cobra earthquake in 1993,
Yeah,
but
and they actually joined with Tonka to make some construction vehicles. They're big green metal pieces, but
yeah,
they
because
never.
wasn't there a Tonka Steel Brigade truck or something,
Yeah,
right?
I have it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that.
it's
Yeah,
steel.
it was
Pretty cool.
yeah, it's steel. It's die-cast steel, and it's one of their big,
Yeah.
like play with it outside in the sandbox vehicles.
Really,
But
I
yeah,
am not
it
familiar
had the
with that
Steel
at all.
Brigade logo on it. But yeah, because Hasbro, what they buy Tonka or they own Tonka?
Yeah, it was one of their acquisitions, I guess, with Kenner, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, because they had the earthquake in '93, and
I want one of those.
but I'm really
I don't
kind
know
of
why.
shocked that they never did his tank variations like that. Um, like you said, they had like kids always love work trucks, dump trucks, trains, bulldozers, all that. When my son was little, his favorite thing for like 2 years straight was like construction vehicles of every and all kinds. And I learned the names of construction equipment that I never could have named before he introduced me to it. And now I just now I see things like that, and I'm just like, why didn't Hasbro capitalize
I
on
don't
that?
know. I mean, all kids are little builders, they build forts. Right. Even my daughter, that's all she does is build forts. I mean, it doesn't matter, girl, boy, they're like little engineers.
Yeah, they all like little building forts and play sets. And
I think we're all of us are good examples of that because we're still doing it.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't like building a sandcastle at the beach? Literally nobody doesn't like doing that. Right. So I
have
and
200 just custom figures on the wall. I think that's pretty, like, I like to build things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I mean, yeah, I'm not.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah,
I can't build a diorama to save my life.
I can't either. I've tried,
but
I don't off more than I can chew every time.
Yeah, I've tried. I don't have the patience for it. By the time it's halfway there, I'm like, okay, what's next?
Well, the cool thing about that piece is it was modular. So, because it was tongue and groove plywood and stuff, so I was able to reset it up a couple more times that assembly required in Iowa, and then I also butchered it up before I, used it as shop tables. I was able to use part of it in other, like, I guess redesigned dioramas. A little smaller, but so I was able to use the mountains and all the little parts that I have and was able to use. So I have them on hand if I ever want to make another diorama again.
When you had the mountains constructed, did you ever put Alpine and the Rock Viper up there just to see what they'd look like on the mountainside?
Rock Vipers were up there, and it also had Cobra Commander standing up there with a hard hat on and a rolled up plans in his hands.
Nice.
Like,
that's cool.
The whole thing.
Oh, that's cool.
Man, you have no idea what I had to battle Savage to get that thing in there. He almost didn't. I called like months ahead and made sure, like, I went down there several times, took measurements, and said, I got a hold of Savage. Like, are you sure this is cool? It's like, it's 12 foot by, yeah, it's really cool. I'm sure. I get there, like, you can't bring that in here. What are you talking about?
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. That almost didn't happen.
I maybe his jorts were too tight or something that day.
Yeah. Usually has something to do with the jorts.
Always. That's why I always look mad at the conventions. Well, that's a lot of people. and a lot of fans. They're all whining about something.
Exactly, man. Can you imagine?
No, I can't, because I mean,
I've only had a few death threats. I'm sure he got them daily.
Oh yeah, I'll bet.
yeah, totally. I mean, G.I. Joe, we've got a very passionate fan base, but it's not, I mean, all fan bases are primarily composed of whiners. It doesn't matter what the fandom is.
Yeah.
Nobody hates the thing they're a fan of more than the people that are a fan of that thing. Okay.
Yeah.
But G.I.
And the
Joe
people
has a
around them.
relatively small fan base compared to like the whining fan bases of like Transformers and Star Wars. I mean, those
Super
are
Hot
us.
Wheels.
Those are us times 40.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when 300 Joe fans are whining about something, that's a drop in the bucket compared to the people whining about Transformers. So,
well, I think we're probably the most shit upon them, wouldn't they?
Well, G.I. Joe is certainly the most. It's certainly the most inconsistent. They don't. Every time they start on the thing and it seems to be working, they never give it more than a couple of years before they've switched to something else. And I know because New Sculpt bought it, Sigma 6 bought it, anniversary stuff bought it, Classified buying it. I mean,
Cobra. Yeah.
I mean,
But they reached top tier with Pursuit of Cobra. Though. I wish I had gone.
I agree, 100%. That's still my favorite.
They got screwed. It wasn't really their fault.
Yeah, Brian, in fact, just a couple weeks ago was texting at me to bitch about why the hell didn't they just continue Pursuit of Cobra instead of all this other junk they were doing.
They got bumped by Hollywood, and then Hollywood bumped them, and then it got stopped for nothing.
Yeah, and it sucks because
they lost their best sculptors.
Yeah, well, I mean, most of them, they went off, they started their own company, and I understand they're doing pretty well for themselves. Yes, Boss Fight, I'm talking to you. Y'all do some good work.
Oh yeah, I absolutely love the Boss Fight stuff. I just used
I'm a boss fight completist, so I know the pain.
I don't have a lot of their stuff because honestly, a lot of it is like the Romans, the Spartan. It's not my focus. But that doesn't stop me from admiring and saying, damn, I wish I had a use for that.
I used a Boss Fight blank just the other day to make the Terminator from the beginning of
your one-day custom.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have Boss Fight Zorro. I mean, when they first announced they were making Zorro, I'm like, oh, I need that.
Yeah, I have the Boss Fight Zorro, and I got the lunchbox, Flash Gordon lunchbox, and I got it autographed by Sam Jones a couple of weeks ago.
Nice.
Yes, he was at the local convention here, and I was able to get him to autograph that for me. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, I do draw my line. I mean, I didn't pick up the animals. I didn't go with the wrestling figures. Not a wrestling guy.
Yeah, then normally.
The luchadors, those are awesome, but I couldn't justify the price. I mean, not because they were super expensive, just because I don't have enough use for them.
Yeah, me either.
To invest in them.
No, with Boss Fight, it's just a collector thing. I mean, I started, from the very beginning, and I just kind of kept going, and I've seen the value of them just skyrocket. So
I know, like the Disparity figures, those are insane. You can't get those for less than $100. I bought a ton of those things, and I used most of them, goddamn it, in customs.
Eric Arana from Boss Fight did an AVAC for me at a show one time. It's one of my.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
So I there are certain lines I invest in just as like art, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
And so that's like I mean, I'm not into elves and that kind of thing, but I do pick them up just because.
I was so tempted on all those elves. I'm just like,
Sculpts are just
I'm
amazing.
really not going to use them, but damn it. And I still look at them sometimes. I'm like, damn it, I know I'm going to end up buying some at some point. I mean, they do good work. And to think, wow, they used to do G.I. Joe stuff back when they were making quality stuff, and now they don't, and now they're not. I mean, yeah, it's
I used the boss fight to do the sorcerer to do my and one of the other figures to do my crystal ball figure.
yes.
So,
And that was yeah, you couldn't have achieved that with Hasbro parts.
no.
Yeah, the blank figures are amazing for accomplishing things that aren't out there.
And actually, did I sit the the other thing that I used, I found some art on just surfing Facebook one day, and I'm like, I can make an action figure out of that using boss fight parts. And
Nice, man.
that's the art. And then I took a skeleton and then a Marauder Task Force, and then I just bashed the two together.
Beautiful.
And made the, and I got permission from the artist to use it on the card. And
Really?
like, awesome. Yeah, I got in touch with a guy on Facebook, and I'm like, hey, I'm not going to sell this, but I'd like to, this is what I'm making, and I'm going to use your art and put it on a card. I'm going to post it on my page, but I'll give you credit. He's like, oh no, that's fantastic. I love it.
I love that effort you go to with the cards. It's just one thing I didn't have the patience for. I did a Vapor card, and I was like, that's about it. I can't take this anymore.
it's a, like you said, the process. So like, here's all of the cards that that I've made that are either waiting for customs, or I've made for other people, or that's like, I want to make a custom of this figure, Slayer Axe from Mask, but I don't have the parts yet, or here's a sneak peek that I did.
That's a great way to make a to-do list.
Exactly. is make a one of the Iron Man armors for Iron Man 3, and then when I was really getting started on this, I'd make 2 copies of every card just in case I screwed the first one up. So
unfortunately, his to-do list is more, I think it's more like a hope to get around to this someday list.
So here is all of the cards that I've printed up that are duplicates.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's 2 inches, almost 2 inches thick of just cards.
Brian, you're a giant nerd. This is why I'm friends with you. So, did you see in there? He's got a card with a cheeseburger on it, because years ago when he first started making his custom cards, he's like, I think I want to start designing cards for my customs. I'm like, wow, that's ambitious. I'm like, why? And he's like, so they're presentable. I'm like, yes. As somebody who's able to organize and wants to make presentable things, that makes perfect sense. Me, I open up all of my toys, but he started developing all these Iron Man, different characters from the movies, and he'd find the picture and he'd design a card. And I said, a cheeseburger. He's like, what? I said, what did Tony Stark say after they rescued him? The first thing he did when he got off the plane was he wanted an American cheeseburger. I said, I want a card from Iron Man with a cheeseburger on it. And he did. He's got a picture of a cheeseburger. So
I actually have a 3D printed hamburger that I've been wanting to cast.
What?
Well, maybe it's time. Yes.
Brian has a, the fact that, because I saw it when you were flipping through that pile a minute ago.
I'll never find it, but it's in here somewhere.
Imagine if you actually had a cheeseburger that you could put on that card.
That's the only reason I haven't used that card, is because I don't have a cheeseburger to put on it.
See, then I'd have to steal that too and bring it home with me. I don't.
Because he keeps threatening to steal my. So I did an Agent Coulson a couple of years ago, a number of years ago now, and then I got Clark Gregg to autograph it. And so yeah, JD keeps trying to steal that every time he's here.
Maybe it's time to invest in a security system.
Right. Well, I have dogs, but you know.
Well,
there you go.
last year,
JG just gives them watermelon. They're like, yeah, take anything you want.
Yeah. Last year, I
have
played a
cat,
joke.
so I hear that.
Last year when I was at Brian's, I played a joke. His wife came downstairs, and I'm like, all right, I'm moving this. And I moved it into the other room just to see if he'd notice. He didn't notice. But I'm like, well, Coulson's one of my favorite characters, and Clark Gregg's one of my favorite actors. So, you know, I'm jealous he got to meet him at all. But yeah, speaking of boss fight,
he was really
this was part of a fundraiser for a website called Spark and Seed. They were making
I've got Frankie.
Yeah, they were making there's a movie that somebody's making called The Trans Story, and in order to complete post-production on the story, it's about a couple that's transitioning genders, and in order to do complete post-production, they did a like a fundraiser for it, and one of the fundraisers was a boss fight Mighty Steed, but it's autographed by the staff at Boss Fight.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'm gonna hang it up, and I'm gonna put it up with my because I've got some art that some art pieces that like I got 2 pieces by our former guest Lauren Wright. I've got a grunt sketch that I still need to put in a frame from Brian Lower, HCC 788. And I've got a piece of Zartan art that Ron Wagner did for the.
I got a Ron Wagner Major Blood.
Yeah,
He usually sits next to me. Usually sits next to me at the Assembly Required.
Oh show. Yeah, well because I've never met him, but
he lives in Iowa.
But for Operation Armor, at Assembly Required for their last go around, you could order a Ron Wagner print. So I did, and I had him draw Zartan, but I've got to frame it. But at some point, I'm going to have those in frames, and I'm going to put this on the wall next to it as art. And I'm going to have my carded figures that Brian made for me for the custom challenge last year. I'm going to have a whole display of these are the art pieces that I've collected from people.
Nice.
Speaking of Lauren Wright, I did a card for her using her art.
You should really send that to her.
I really should send that to her. So that's her art on one of my cards. And then
nice.
I made a couple of those, and I never.
Because
with her.
Yeah, because I commissioned her to do Coby. I don't know if you're familiar with her art, but she does female characters pinup style, and I commissioned her for Nymphadora Tonks from Harry Potter and Ambassador Kalar from Star Trek, both of whom are properties that she likes, but she never had an opportunity to do art from them, especially Harry Potter. She loves Harry Potter, but she never gets around to doing any art for herself. And I'm like, oh, you want to do Harry Potter art? Well, I need Tonks. So she was happy to draw Tonks for me.
Nice.
Because that was right after we had her on her show last year. So, but yeah, art stuff. Yeah, that's a good collection to get into, and that's why I like the cards Brian makes. It's art.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, it's what I've been doing for the last couple of days is I'm trying to get all of my G.I. Joe custom carded figures to have front and back. So all the ones that are on the wall right now have custom cards front and back. So they have like a picture of, like the original G.I. Joe figures would have a picture of the characters that are coming out or already out. So I used pictures of my customs in those, and then used my picture of that figure for the file card picture, and then just basically copied the file card from the original character or if it's one of my original characters, I wrote either JD or I wrote the file card for it. So, but yeah, all the ones on the wall behind me have front and back cards.
And he puts inside jokes on the outside or on the card sometimes.
Yes.
Is the card is one, right? You don't have like a back and then a front?
I do.
Two cards, or is it just one card?
No, it's one card. It's
So that's one of my carded figures right there.
Nice. So, but the bubbles aren't removable. Are those connected?
Yeah, no, they're glued on. Some
Okay.
of the older ones that I used like the display cases that you buy figures at the convention.
Okay.
And those you can still open.
What was that? Your Rock Viper? Yeah, because I just saw.
No, that's my original Target.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. You did an Iron Grenadiers version.
Yeah.
Because I saw.
What's that?
Where do you find your bubbles?
I get most of my blisters from empireblisters.com.
Huh.
And they're very reasonably priced. They're about $1 a piece. And he usually gets them out the door in about a couple of days, and I've never had any problems, and I've ordered a shit ton.
But what if you need a specific, like, a specific blister for accessories? They're not all the same.
He has like blisters for droids or IG-88 or smaller blisters like that.
You had one that kind of looked like this, though. Like that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
those are two together. Okay,
Yeah.
I thought it was shaped that way, like as one. I see.
Yeah, no, I just put it together to make it look like
Nice.
it's one.
It looks like it is. It's one piece. It's cool.
Well, and his big customs, he's got these giant blister packs for them.
Yeah.
Today he posted pictures of his traditional version 1 style Target custom, and it's so big that he had to put a stand on it in the bubble to get the thing so it's not flopping over in the card.
Yeah,
because it's freaking massive.
Oh yes, I can see that. Yes.
That's my
wow.
My Target custom.
Yeah, dude, is that
And
thing
this does open? So this is a clamshell blister, so that does open.
You're gonna need wall support, so that thing's got to weigh a ton.
It needs a support beam, a micro.
Yeah, so I can take this one out.
Gotta have like an anchor behind it in the wall. Jeez.
Yeah.
And then so he was kind of flopping around in there, so I had to put him on a blister, and then so that's kind of one of the nice things about using.
That's cool. That snaps in there like that.
Yeah. But most of the time, once I get done with the custom, I don't play with it or anything. So I just want to be able to display it, and I want it to have it look nice.
Yeah, I don't blame you. If my lab didn't take over, like I had I did like an entire before we had a child, I had like the biggest room in the house. I put coffered ceilings up. I redid the sheetrock wiring, like 3-part switch. It's just like a really nice like cinema room. And I just like bring in all my toys, my flags, the drones, all my shelving. My wife's like, what are you doing? My toy room's done. What are you talking about? So then I have a kid, and then the office got moved and everything got switched around. She took the office. All my toys got thrown downstairs. But then the lab took over. And so all my toys have been just scrunched up in like one big room, and then one area of the rest of the basement, and then my attic, storage facility, like everywhere else except display.
Right.
So if I need a part, like if I need Sludge Viper's backpack, sometimes it's just easier to buy one off eBay than to hunt through my collection because
I can't imagine.
it's depressing.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're hoping to get a bigger house at some point. But speaking of big, do you want to see the big boys?
Oh, you bet.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if I can get it over there. This, and I made several versions of this guy.
Oh my
Hellraiser.
God.
That is a thing of beauty.
Is it a warthog? That is a warthog
So this
at
raises
the front.
the missile.
Oh my God. What is that missile from?
It's a Toys R Us thing.
Arr!
Ah. Oh, wow. Oh,
So
gantry in
this
there.
is
Oh,
about-
wow.
This is probably what prompted me to start really committing to casting. I made
Uh-huh.
this, I think, in 2011.
Wow.
I think it won first place. The green one won first place at JoeCon. And it's the snowcat for the doors here.
Ah,
Oh my God. Wow.
The Rattler canopy, the Condor jet for the wings there.
Crab.
oh yeah.
Inside, M1A1 tank for the treads, and
Oh my God. That's awesome.
the chassis, and the Warthog, of course, and
That
there's
is,
a few other things.
that is just incredible.
It's a thing of beauty.
I made a Crimson Guard one for a guy, made black ones. I sold a lot of these things. These were a lot of work.
Oh,
And then, of course,
Coby, does that vehicle have a driver?
it did. Female driver.
even better.
Okay. Just making sure. Does it still have a driver?
Yeah, she's still around.
Oh my God, you made the broadcast energy transmitter.
I thought I saw that sitting on the shelf in the back. I'm like, is that a bet sitting in the back?
I refuse to get my hopes up. If I'd seen it, I would have been like, no, can't. Oh my God.
Look at
So
this.
Dude.
Look
Speaking
at
of round parts, this is a cottage cheese lid here. So, Star Trek
Oh,
teleporter,
Okay.
sweet.
cheap M1A1 tank, Thunder. What is it? The Thunder.
Thunder
Trap.
Club.
Oh my God, there's so many parts on this.
Boy, no kidding.
That is a
It-
thing of beauty.
This is what I wanted to make as a Kickstarter, but I'm still concerned about IP issues.
Yeah, I could see that.
I don't know if that will happen or not, but that's a man could dream, right?
Right?
Yeah. No, I could dream of having that in my house. That would be awesome because I'd just put Duke. I'm like, well, yeah, I'd probably put Duke and dial.
Yeah, I got
mainframe.
about 100 people that want one, and to actually be able to scrap build every single one of them, it wouldn't happen.
No, I can imagine not.
No.
But,
How did you
no.
how'd you do the actual, like, the transmitter part? Like with the iridescent, what's it? Are they
Okay,
decals
that's
or
an interesting.
I was
The-
wondering the same thing.
The
I feel like that thing is
actual-
heavy as hell.
the actual beam thing is actually wood. I
Okay.
I took
Okay.
crown molding and made the case.
Okay.
There's some Joe parts in here too, but it is a prototype, so it's a little rough. But
A little rough. Yeah, I can't tell. It looks production as far as I'm concerned.
thanks, man.
Um,
This is all paint, and this is like detail sticker, like
Okay.
right here. But this hologram here, my when I was a kid, my parents had this company called Home Cable Television, Home Cable Incorporated, HCI. They sold these. My stepdad came up with this motor drive thing that you could control your satellite dish that sits outside, the massive thing, you know.
Yeah, I remember
You
those.
can control it,
Okay.
dial it in from the inside rather than go out there and with walkie talkies and try to get it dialed in. So you can control it from the comfort of your own home. Anyway, he invented
Nice
that.
practical solution to
Yeah.
a big problem. Yeah.
Exactly. And I would assemble motor drive parts and gaskets and stuff in the basement.
Okay.
That was how I earned my coin for GI Joes.
Nice.
Wow.
So they would go to trade shows.
Jeez, and I
Like,
mowed lawns. Wow. I'm so
I did
low
that
rent.
too. I did that too.
I scooped
Um,
dog poop.
But they would go to trade shows and they would have a lot of he would do light shows with it, with like advertising his product at conventions and stuff. And
Okay.
he got like a giant box of these hologram stickers, and I saved them like from when I was a kid, and these are too cool, or like all different colors and just big giant stickers.
Nice.
Anyway, I dissected one of those to use for that. And that's where that came
That's
from.
badass.
Nice.
That is badass.
Straight from the 70s.
Holy crap.
Baby.
That is amazing.
It weighs about 60 pounds.
Yeah, I was gonna say, every time you pick it up, I'm like, it looks like he's hefting up a treasure box or something.
Well, I can do squats with it.
Yeah, wow, that's impressive.
Like a kettlebell.
Which is why it's a prototype. I mean, if you actually made something, it would, hopefully snap together and
right.
Yeah, probably wouldn't have the plywood and the crown molding on it.
Yeah, well, they would all be plasticized, but
right.
I mean, the center part is a fire engine that's been cut off on each ends. The center area, and the back is made up with more snowcat parts. I mean, the cockpit, but
that's amazing.
If it comes down to having to make the parts here, then I would do that too. I mean, even something modular, like, you make the base vehicle and the center vehicle is kind of like an outpost, but it snaps onto the base vehicle.
Yeah.
And then the transmitter part is like maybe a forward operating base or something, and it snaps onto the rest of it, so that, oh, look, those three parts snap together and they look like the BET. You knew. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
it makes me think of when they did the 25th sets with the box sets with the weather dominator parts, and you put it all together and you're like, wow, that's I all I could ever hear was The Price is Right. Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, thanks for trying. What's that mean? A Bart Simpson dumping the cake in the trash?
Yeah, at least you tried.
At least you tried.
I did
want to
Weather Dominator, and just like, this is just sad.
I did want to do those. I did want to do like an actual version of the Weather Dominator and the what's the other one?
The Mass Device.
That's it. But I just never got to it. Got bogged down with this guy.
Yeah, and then that whole casting business you have, that seems to take a bit of time. So
especially
and sanity.
Well, then you add the whole new website thing, which I bought it last year, so it's pretty much set dormant like an empty house.
Yes,
it was like $300 or something, and he just sent me a bill for year 2. So hopefully I make it a reality this time.
Right.
My buddy Brian Sauer from Assembly Required.
Oh yeah.
He's setting it up for me. I just got to get him the photographs, because a lot of the pictures on my website are just like 10 years old, and a lot of them aren't. So I'll just move the new ones over, but I have to re-photograph all those, older photographs. And so I just got to find the time to do it. I'm trying to get all those vintage parts, the first part molds all done, so that I at least have the first stage on a lot of the kits done. And then I'm going to jump to the website working, the website building for a week or two, and try to get that done, because he's sitting there, waiting for these pictures, and, a year went by and another one started.
There's only so much time in the day.
Exactly. So let's see. So you've got an e-creator store, you've got a Facebook page, right?
Correct. Yes. Okay. And I do have a commission site.
What's that?
I do have a commission site too that works just like AVAC Lab, the store. I'll have people just, people need parts, they're selling a figure or whatever, they need to get it out. They can hit me up and I can set them up with a custom list. You're familiar with it.
Yes.
And I just, I give them the total and some random picture that I put together, and, I'll send them a photo of their order before I send it out, and, so they know all is good. So I do have a commission, route left open, for people who need parts, but I have a hard time because I have like maybe 60 to 70 orders, or maybe even 100. If it's right when I open, it's hundreds, but like, over time, it's like 70 or 80 orders all at one time. I can't work creatively and business at the same time. So I do shut down because it's not fair for the customer for me to sit there and do R&D work while their order is waiting. So that's why I do shut down, just because, I mean, there's two
that's
parts
why
of
I
my
place
brain.
my order. I'm like, it's like whenever you get to me is fine. I'm in no rush.
Not everyone's like that.
I know.
Yeah,
and I don't blame them, because there's so many crooks in the industry, unfortunately, that it makes the good people have to work that much harder just to, get past people's apprehension, just because there has been some scumbaggery in the past.
I know we're the rare patient, but I make orders and I'm just like, whatever, whenever it shows up, it shows up. I'm not in a hurry for it. And I mean,
well, fortunately, I'm going to be less anxious this time, because being a part of eCreator is sort of like living in an apartment complex, and you have management above you that will take a complaint if there is one. And so somebody will leave you a negative feedback for something that says 6 weeks when it's only been 2 weeks, and it takes several days to get that BS removed, and you have no control over it. And after 10 years, I still have 100% feedback. I'm pretty proud about, and I was able to escape that. Not that I don't plan on doing just as good as work and expecting feedback, but it's not hanging over me now. I'm going to tell people straight up, it's going to be 2.5 months, and no more anxiety here, man, because it's either have AVAC or not, and he die of a heart attack.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I see nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. You tell me it's gonna be 2.5 months, it's gonna be 2.5 months. That's fine. It just goes further down.
It's usually 2.5 to 3 months right when it opened, because it's like removing a dam, and it's all at once. Yeah. But after a couple months, it kind of stabilizes, and it's usually about 3 weeks to, at the most, 4 weeks, depending on like how much you order.
Sure.
Two heads aren't going to take as long as a whole, $300 or $400 order.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're just about just over an hour, actually, and I have to get going because I'm on duty tomorrow, so I have to go get stuff ready for my shift tomorrow. So as always, thank you for watching General Geekery, and thank you, Coby, for being on. And
thank you.
Check the show notes down below. We will have a list of Coby's Facebook page for AVAC's Lab and his eCreator site.
For the time being, yes.
For the time being. And thank you again for being on the show. We would love to have you back on. This was fantastic. I had a blast.
Yes, it was.
Thank you.
Between now and then, if you want to send me one of your construction hisses, I'll take it and I'll be happy. Thanks.
I'll sign it for you. How's that?
I'll even make a construction Rip It figure. There's a running joke. I've got a bunch of Rip It customs I made because I'm the only fan that character has. So I'll make a
construction Rip It.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the variations never does.
That is the only thing we got out of the Blue Mauler after all. So I'm a fan of Rip It.
All right. See, there's two of us.
The more obscure he is, the more likely I'm going to be a fan of it.
Yeah. I was contemplating, well, how should I redesign Ice Cream Soldier so I can make a custom of it? I don't know.
That was one of the first custom figures I did.
I've been kicking it around all day, and I'm like, you know what? I think I have an idea. So
that I'm interested to see.
I love obscure characters. The more obscure, the better. So
it's just it makes life more interesting.
Absolutely.
I mean, you don't go into 31 flavors and pick vanilla. Oh, maybe you do. Just depends.
No.
But also, there are going to be some reveals on Facebook from the lab this weekend. So
all right.
Good. Brian can link to those too then, because
absolutely
probably
I can always update the show notes later.
I do have a page on Facebook, and I also have a group that's called Beakers and Tubes, I can get you that link too. It's a
Yeah,
send me
PM that to me on Facebook, and I will get all that into the show notes.
That does take an invite, but just send me one and I'll get you in.
Okay. Sounds
Thanks
good.
again, guys.
And
All right.
that's about all we got for you for this episode. So please do all that fun social media stuff like, share, subscribe, comment below, and thanks for watching.